The storm had passed only hours ago, but the city still felt bruised, soaked in the chaotic aftermath of broken branches, scattered debris, and the distant wail of ambulances moving through flooded streets. In the bright, hazy daylight that followed, one man stood untouched by the devastation, at least from the outside. Alistair Wynne, a millionaire CEO known for his razor-sharp decisions and colder-than-steel demeanor, drove through the quieter outskirts of the city in his polished black SUV, his thoughts heavy, his heart even heavier. Money had never healed the emptiness of losing his own family years ago, and no achievement had stitched his fractured life back together. But in that moment, at that abandoned intersection, fate decided to step into his path in a way he could have never imagined. Because right there, by the roadside, stood a trembling little girl in muddy shoes, clutching her injured mother's hand, her voice quivering as she whispered the words that shattered the walls Alistair had built around himself for years. "Please don't let my mom die." Yellow Heart, before we go deeper into this emotional journey, if you believe kindness and second chances can change lives, please like, comment, share, and subscribe to RW Insights. Yellow Heart. The sight froze Alistair. The little girl, no more than 7, had streaks of dried dirt on her cheeks where tears had carved their path. Her mother, Serena Vale, lay unconscious beside a collapsed bicycle, her leg twisted unnaturally, blood trickling down her forehead. The storm had likely thrown them off the road, leaving them stranded. Alistair felt something unfamiliar, panic, rise within him. He rushed out, his heart pounding in ways no board meeting had ever triggered. He knelt beside Serena, checking her pulse, relieved to find it faint but steady. The girl, whom he later learned was named Marin, clung to his sleeve with a desperation that pierced straight through him. The CEO, who had turned away from people, emotions, attachments, found himself lifting the injured woman in his arms and promising the trembling child he would not let anything happen. As he sped toward the nearest hospital, Marin sat beside him in the front seat, shaking uncontrollably. She spoke in short, terrified breaths about how her mother had been all she had since her father died last year, how they had been on their way to drop essential supplies to a shelter damaged in the storm. Alistair listened, feeling something soften inside him, guilt threading through his thoughts as he remembered how selfishly he'd isolated himself while people like Serena had risked their lives to help others. The hospital staff rushed Serena to emergency care, and Alistair stayed in the waiting area with Marin, the girl refusing to leave his side. He didn't know why he stayed, maybe because he saw in Marin the loneliness he had once carried as a child. Maybe because this was the first time in years someone needed him, not for his money, not for his power, but for hope. Hours passed in the bright, sterile corridor. Marin eventually fell asleep on the plastic chair, her head resting against Alistair's arm. He didn't move, afraid to disturb the small sense of safety she had found. When the doctor finally emerged and explained that Serena's injuries were severe but treatable with immediate surgery, one that the woman couldn't afford, Alistair's response was swift and firm. He didn't hesitate, didn't calculate risks, didn't ask for paperwork. He simply said, "Do whatever it takes. I'll cover everything." It was the easiest decision he had ever made, though it meant more to him emotionally than financially. The surgery stretched long into the afternoon, while sunlight poured through the tall hospital windows. Alistair remained seated, occasionally brushing Marin's hair out of her face, something he didn't realize he missed doing, caring, just caring without expectation. When the doctor finally stepped out with a tired smile saying Serena had survived and would recover, something inside Alistair cracked open. Relief, warm, overwhelming, flooded him. Marin awoke moments later, and when he told her the good news, she threw her tiny arms around him with a gratitude so raw it almost made him break down. As days passed, Alistair visited Serena and Marin regularly. Serena, though weak, was fiercely independent and initially resisted his help. But her gratitude was genuine, and she eventually accepted the kindness offered. Alistair learned that Serena worked at a community center, devoting her life to helping struggling families. She lived modestly, earning little yet giving much. In contrast, he realized he had lived in a towering glass mansion filled with luxury but devoid of meaning. The contrast gnawed at him until he found himself seeking reasons to stay at the hospital longer, bringing meals for Serena, reading stories to Marin, fixing small insurance issues, and slowly becoming the person he had once been before loss changed him. The turning point arrived one warm afternoon when Serena, sitting up for the first time without assistance, gently thanked Alistair for everything he had done. In a voice soft but steady, she told him he had not just saved her life, but returned hope to a little girl who had already lost too much. Alistair felt his throat tighten as he realized he wasn't just helping them, they were healing him. He hadn't smiled genuinely in years, yet now he found himself smiling every time Marin ran toward him calling his name, every time Serena looked at him with sincere appreciation rather than expectation. Soon, after Serena was discharged, Alistair continued supporting them quietly, never boastful, never intrusive. Their moments together, whether sharing meals, talking about life, or sitting in peaceful silence, became something sacred, something grounding. For the first time in many years, Alistair felt less like a lonely CEO living in a penthouse and more like a human being with a heart capable of giving and receiving warmth. Serena, too, found strength not just in her healing body but in the unexpected bond growing between them, a bond neither had anticipated but both slowly embraced. By the end of the month, as daylight bathed the small garden outside Serena's home, Marin tugged on Alistair's coat and asked with innocent certainty, "Will you stay in our lives?" Serena looked away shyly, but her silence carried a hopeful tremor. Alistair felt a lump rise in his throat. He had lost a family once, but this time, fate was offering him a second chance, not wrapped in luxury, but in love, gratitude, and healing. Sunflower, if this story touched your heart even a little, please like, comment, share, and subscribe to RW Insights to support more heartfelt stories like this. Sunflower. Speech balloon special request, comment, kindness lives on, if you believe even small acts can save lives. And so, in the warmth of a sunny day, a lonely millionaire, a brave mother, and a hopeful little girl walked toward a future none of them expected, but all desperately needed.